Hello all! Today I want to talk about bizarre DOS games. I didn't actually own a computer until I was in my teens, so the DOS generation passed me by. In fact, most computer games did. Admittedly, there are a ton of bizarre games out there, not just in DOS. But DOS games did provide a certain unintentional humor with their bizarreness, their weirdness, or their absurdity. That being said, here are 10 bizarre DOS games that you absolutely have to try. Number 10. I Have No Mouth, and I Must Scream. Based on a short story by Harlan Ellison with the same name, I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream takes a more serious tone for an adventure game. The game centers around 5 individuals that are being tortured by a sentient AI, or artificial intelligence. The player is able to choose from any of the 5 characters to play their scene. This game has 3 different endings: the good, the bad, and the worst. I remember reading that Harlan Ellison originally wanted the game to have one ending, which I believe was the bad ending, but the people at Cyberdreams talked him out of it. It would have made for an interesting twist in an already depressing game if Ellison had gotten his way. Speaking of depressing, while this game isn't as funny as other games on the list, most of the character scenes are pretty noteworthy for being weird. There are a lot of nonsensical things that happen throughout each of the characters' stories. Some noteworthy examples include, during Benny's scene, he might eat a child if you don't play a scenario correctly, and in Ted's scene, you have to avoid being a hit with the ladies. No, seriously, you have to avoid being a womanizer to win Ted's scenario. While there are some humorous scenes, there are also a lot of dark situations within the game itself. In fact, the story itself is one big, dark, depressing situation. There are depictions of Nazi Germany as well as rape. This game has a ton of weird scenarios and weird graphics. It's definitely a must-see. This game is available for purchase on Steam for those that are interested in playing it. It's definitely a unique name with a unique subject matter and is the only game on this list that takes a very serious tone.
Jelly thing.
Number 9. Zombie Dinos from Planet Zeltoid. Zombie Dinos from Planet Zeltoid could make it on any list of bizarre games, just based on the name alone. This game was originally released for the Philips CDI back in 1992, but a DOS port was released in 1995. I already hear you ask, what could this game possibly be about? Well, it's an edutainment adventure game for one thing. Boo. Okay. I know edutainment games have a negative stigma about them because who likes learning? Am I right? But seriously, this game is a point-and-click game where you take control of rocket scientists. No, really, that's what you're called when you play the game. And you attempt to save the Earth from zombie dinosaurs. Time-traveling zombie dinosaurs.
Now listen up. This ain't no plaything for small fry. This is a time machine. You and me, we gotta save the planet. My name? Well, ever since the brain blobs turned me into a dino droid, folks have been calling me Dexter. You? I'm gonna call you Rocket Scientist. Yeah.
You're also aided by Dexter the Dinotroid, who likes to go by Dex for short. Dex is voiced by Cam Clark, a voice actor whom you may know from such things as Rachel and the Tree Schoolers and Monster High. Oh, and also Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Akira. That's right, Cam Clark went from playing Leonardo to Dex the Dinotroid. Now, the gameplay and voice acting isn't what makes this weird in my mind. I mean, heck, voice actors tend to have a wide range of roles. The bizarre aspect of this game comes from the main antagonist, Harry the Harrier, and his evil henchmen, the Brain Blobs. I mean, just look at that face. That's a face that only a mother could love, and might also haunt my dreams tonight. I apologize if this keeps you up. Number 8. Voyeur. This game was also originally released for the Philips CDI in 1993, but a DOS version also hit the market in the same year. The main goal, as the title of the game suggests, is to be a voyeur. Bizarre enough already, I know. What that really means, though, is that you play a private investigator that is hired by a member of the Hawk family to spy on Reed Hawk. You see, Reed Hawk is as corrupt as they come, and the family member that hires the PI wants to bring him down. The family member is selected randomly at the beginning of each game, and the story itself may change depending on what you do as you play. The story is relatively short as well, and requires a few playthroughs to really learn the backstories of each character. The Hawk family gathers at the Hawk Mansion for a family get-together and to prepare for a major announcement. Reed Hawk is going to run for the President of the United States. The player has the option to spy through various windows of the Hawk Mansion in order to gather enough evidence or dirt to end Reed Hawk's career. The windows you can peek through change during every playthrough, and you can get a glimpse into most of the family members' personal lives. The game was apparently inspired by Alfred Hitchcock's film Rear Window, and it does have a similar feel to that. The ultimate goal is to watch as Reed Hawk murders another member of the family. The bizarre aspects of the game lie within each of the scenes that the player has a chance to view. They're all full motion video, so the acting is overly dramatic, and most of the scenes are mostly over-sexualized as well. These over-sexualized scenes feature bondage and even incestual relationships. These scenes alone are pretty funny given how the characters act, and the acting alone could get them a spot on anyone's top 10 weirds list. But the FM scenes definitely put it over the top for me. Number 7. Night Trap. I feel like this game needs no introduction. It's one of 2 games that were presented in front of Congress to push for the ESRB rating system. It was originally released for the Sega CD in 1992 and later for DOS in 1994. It was released for various other systems as well throughout the years, including the PlayStation 4 and the Nintendo Switch. This is the quintessential full-motion video game that everyone should try out. If you have not seen it or even heard about this game, then you are in for a treat. The plot of this game is absolutely ridiculous, and the cheesy acting is the icing on the cake.
Scaring me. Wait. What are you doing? No! Leave me alone!
At its core, this game is a B-movie, and it is amazing. In fact, I believe there was a movie version of this floating around somewhere, but it may have just been some type of bootleg put together from scenes from the game. The game takes place within the Martin Winery estate. You play as a member of the SCAT team. Alright, obligatory poop joke, and we're walking. SCAT actually stands for different things depending on which versions of the game you play. It's either the Sega Control Attack Team, if you're playing on the Sega CD, or the Special Control Attack Team if you're playing it anywhere else. As if it wasn't bizarre enough that you were working for the Poop Team, your main job is to spy on a group of females as they have a slumber party. It's kind of disturbing when you write out the plot, isn't it?
I'll be right back.
Alright, that being said, the main reason that you're spying on the party is because there are missing girls, 5 to be exact. All of the missing girls were at a different sleepover that occurred at the Martin estate prior to the game. A SCAT agent has infiltrated the current sleepover as one of the girls. Throughout the night, you had to click on various cameras to find and trap augurs. For all intents and purposes, augurs are vampires. They drink the blood of their victims, and you can catch them hobbling all over the house. There's the iconic scenes where the girls dance around and sing the Night Trap theme song, and of course the shower scene that caused the uproar and led to the ESRB rating system. If those scenes themselves don't sell you on this bizarre game, then the overacting of the main antagonists will. When they reveal themselves to be monsters, they really ham it up. This game is ridiculous, and I honestly love every minute of it. You can find the DOS version online, but I would suggest checking out the PS4 or Switch versions. There's multiple game modes, and there's an additional unlockable game in it as well. Number 6. Psychic Detective. Psychic Detective was another title that saw release on a wide variety of systems, but this one started out on DOS. Like Voyeur, this game is pretty short and requires multiple playthroughs to learn the entire story. The plot is rather simple though. You play as Eric Fox, a psychic that performs magic in a dingy club in San Francisco. Eric soon learns that he has untapped potential and learns how to hitchhike into other people's minds. The player then spends the rest of the game choosing to jump into other characters or remain as Eric. Alright, well, nothing bizarre about the plot yet, and it actually sounds like a pretty interesting game. Well, the game is another full-motion video game, so that means overacting and zany antics. One cool thing to note about the game is that it's told from the first-person perspective, with the exception of the cutscenes. The user interface is definitely within the weird realm. The video is encapsulated in a multicolored swirling vortex. The vortex starts out empty, but quickly fills up as Eric encounters more and more people. It's honestly a jumbled mess as you interact with more and more people. The main screen is also very tiny in comparison to the rest of the screen. They really do shrink the game screen down, and I'm not entirely sure where they were going with that. Also, since you're diving into people's minds, there are lots of video effects and strange colors added to scenes. There are also a lot of random clips added to the scenes as well, like a cat meowing when Eric develops his power. I mean, hell, the intro to the game is just a hodgepodge of random scenes. You know that as soon as you turn this bad boy on, you're in for a treat. You can find the DOS version of Psychic Detective on the My Abandonware site. Number 5. The Town with No Name. Okay, I know this was originally a CD-TV game, but a DOS version was released. This game is made on a shoestring budget and looks like it was made in MS Paint. In fact, I wrote an entire review on this game where I focus on some of my favorite things. You can find a link for that review in the description. Wink wink, nudge nudge. Anyway, I contend that the creators had a lot of fun when coming up with the dialogue for this game, although they apparently do hate this game.
Oh dear, that wasn't supposed to happen.
To me, though, the dialogue is hilarious. The scenes featuring random townsfolk are comical, and the game is very short, so it doesn't wear out its welcome. This is a game that is so bad that it's good. It has terrible voice acting, ridiculous graphics, and an odd story, but that's what gives the game its charm. The game itself is completely nonsensical from the beginning to the ending itself. The humor resonates with me, and I think it's absolutely hilarious. I mean, I can't think of many other games where the player is given the choice to end the game immediately, and then sees the protagonist taking a train into space.
Come back, Shane.
My name's not Shane, kid.
If you want to try this game out yourself, I also have a tutorial on how to get it running in DOSBox, again, link in the description. If you don't feel like putting in any effort to get the game to run in DOSBox, then you can head over to my Town with No Name playlist. The list should have every scene from the game if you're interested in watching instead of playing. And yes, this concludes my shameless plug section. Let's move on.
Darn! Just one more page and I would have finished this book.
Number 4. Phantasmagoria. Alright, here's another game that falls into the so bad it's good genre. Not necessarily due to its gameplay or overselling of gore, but due to the overacting on part of the main cast. The game starts out as the main lead actor is taking photographs of a lovely landscape. You then get a glimpse of a mansion. And here comes some of the most bizarre things on this list. Warning, crappy CGI objects inbound. The story follows Adrian Delaney, a writer that has been plagued by nightmares of gruesome images and various gore and violence. Adrian is also plagued by writer's block and is searching for inspiration to help her write her new book. Apparently, the mansion she and her husband Don live in once belonged to a famous 19th century magician by the name of Zoltan Karnovash. I'm pretty sure I'm not pronouncing that right, or Carno for short. Carno had 5 wives that all mysteriously died. Carno apparently was a practitioner of black magic as well, and had summoned a demon while he was alive. Well, I guess that explained what happened to his wives. While Adrian explores the house, she accidentally releases the demon that Carno summoned. The demon soon possesses Don, and that's where things start to go a little crazy. Don goes from a loving and supportive husband to a raging douche really quick. And possessed Don is what really makes this game stand out, with the exception of one of his actions. There is a scene where Don does rape his wife shortly after becoming possessed, and that's honestly a terrible thing. The scene really didn't feel like it was needed in the game, but it does show how the possession has taken over Don's mind. With all that being said though, with the exception of that awful rape scene, possessed Don's mannerisms are pretty hilarious. Like most games that feature live-action characters, this game provides a lot of memorable and hilarious scenes. The music is top-notch and the violence and gore is over the top. This game is also available for purchase on Steam for those that are interested in it. Number 3. Darkseed. Here's a recipe for a bizarre game. 1 part point-and-click, digitized actors, artwork from H.R. Giger, ridiculous deaths, nonsensical puzzles, terrible voice acting, and killer headaches.
That sure was some nightmare. It even left me with a monster headache.
Darkseed is one of my favorite DOS games. It's really short if you know what to do, but don't get cocky. This game borders on unfair with almost all of its puzzles, as most are linked to an instant death. If you're like me and forget to save frequently, you'll find yourself getting killed by almost everything when you enter the Dark World. And unfortunately, if you die in the Dark World and you forget to save, you have to start the game completely over. The Dark World is a mirror image of our world, so while most people are good in our world, the Dark World inhabitants are mostly evil.
I'm just beginning to understand.
Things in our world also affect things in the Dark World as well. This game is actually considered to be a good horror game. It's even ranked above games like Clock Tower, System Shock 2, or Eternal Darkness on some lists. That being said, this is a list about the bizarre, so let's get to it. If you're playing this game for the very first time, you might not know that you need to grab aspirin from the medicine cabinet to stop the mustachioed machismo himself, Mike Dawson, from repeatedly saying, "My head is killing me." Gee, I wonder why his head is hurting. You also won't know to seek out a hidden room in Mike's house. You need to open the secret room in order to find the rope. Once you have the rope, you head to the attic and tie it to a gargoyle on Mike's balcony. This way you have an escape route later in the game. I mean, sure, why wouldn't you do that? Did I also forget to mention that Mike also bought this house without looking at it first? I mean, it sure seems like it anyway. He does seem to say, "This came with the house," when you examine most things in the house.
The battery still works.
I'm just scratching the surface on the absurdity of Darkseed. Would the player think to look for a 1 pixel by 1 pixel bobby pin to add to their inventory? Probably not. But you won't be able to finish the game if you don't. And you certainly wouldn't think to look for the bobby pin in the library. You think get out of jail free cards are just in Monopoly? Guess again. Darkseed has them and they work like a charm. The most bizarre thing though, in my opinion, why would anyone in their right mind fill the car in Mike's garage? The broken car. The broken car that came with the house. Why would anyone think to fill it with scotch? We fill the car with scotch so it'll power an alien spaceship in the Dark World? I mean, sure, why not? I also have a full playthrough of Darkseid on my channel, as well as most, if not all, of the death scenes. Check it out if you want to see some hilarity that is Darkseid. Number 2. Harvester. Harvester is what happens when a video game company hears that violent video games are the topic du jour and decides to cash in. The plot makes no sense. You play Steve, a young man that has amnesia who apparently woke up in the past. He's such a kidder.
Well, you always were a kidder, Steve.
He's also apparently engaged to Stephanie, another person with amnesia. The main goal is to figure out who you are and why you're in Harvest. Speaking of, the town of Harvest is bizarre, to say the least. There are normal places that you would expect in any town, such as a school or a diner. And then there are weird places that don't belong, such as a missile silo and the lodge. The characters are also pretty extreme. They're either overly sexualized or violent in some way, or both. And then there's Mr. Potsdam.
Meat is the foundation of any decent society. Everyone needs at least 3 servings of red meat a day, and anyone who says otherwise is a commie.
Steve has to perform a series of tasks in order to gain access to the lodge. The lodge is where the game really takes a turn. Each room has a different theme that is meant to test Steve, except that the player doesn't actually have to do any of the tests and has the ability to kill everything that's in his path. Steve also has an option to kill the townsfolk of Harvest, but that will land Steve in jail. On the surface, the game is just another point-and-click game. Deep down, okay, well, it's still just a point-and-click game, but it features wonky combat elements as well.
Let me stab you. Wait, no. You pervert. No. Lighting up the mattress again.
The dialogue in this game is insane, but in a funny way, and it's also highly quotable.
Well, she needs a good hard penis.
One interesting tidbit for the game, some characters' voices are played by different people than their digitized actor counterpart. It's an odd choice, but for a game full of odd choices, it's fine. This game is also available on Steam for those that are interested in playing this hodgepodge of game designs. Number 1. Darkseid 2. Okay, hear me out on this one. I know Darkseid 2 isn't technically a DOS game, but I did manage to play it in DOSBOX. And it's one of the most bizarre, absurd computer adventure games that I've ever played. It's even a step up from the first game. Honestly, there's only one thing I need to show you to explain everything about why Darkseid 2 is my top choice for this list. And spoilers, by the way. Seriously, if you don't want to be spoiled on Darkseid 2, this literally explains everything. Go play the game first. You'll thank me later. With that being said, here's the clip. Honestly, the clip I just showed you doesn't make much more sense in context, so we're all on the level playing field here. Darkseid 2 sees the return of our mustachioed hero Mike Dawson, although this time he is played by a different actor. Mike is the main suspect for a recent murder case, the murder of Miss Rita Scanlon. Did Mike kill Rita? He pleads his innocence and does what any person would do in his shoes. He decides to play detective and find the murderer himself.
Is that you?
We follow Mike on his journey as he rekindles relationships with various townfolk from his hometown. Spoilers, they don't like him very much. Some notable locations in the game include a hobo shack, a carnival, and the morgue. Oh, and the Dark World makes a return as well. The Dark World still features the work of H.R. Giger, which is pretty cool, but the quality of everything else doesn't really hold up so well.
Hey, you missed, pal.
While Darkseid 1 was seen as being a good horror game, Darkseid 2 wasn't. There were a lot of plot holes littered throughout the game, and the game did drag in certain areas. However, even though it has boring segments and a nonsensical story, the ridiculousness of the scene I showed at the beginning of this segment makes this game the most bizarre DOS game I've ever played. And also one of the funniest. With that being said, as always, thank you for watching, and